Good evening and welcome to Iraqi Dinar News. Today's broadcast brings a development that has the global currency community watching closely. Reports are circulating that internal banking screens at two major U.S. financial institutions, Chase and Wells Fargo, are displaying extraordinary updates related to the Iraqi dinar and the Vietnamese dong. According to multiple banking insiders, these screens are showing new currency values that are far higher than anything seen before. While such reports must always be treated carefully and verified with patience, the scale and timing of this development have captured widespread attention. In a world increasingly connected by financial technology and instant data, a move like this could indicate the beginning of a larger monetary adjustment or system update that has been years in the making. Tonight, we'll take a calm, detailed look at what these new figures could mean, how they might relate to broader global economic activity, and what investors and currency holders should be watching for in the days ahead. The reports began surfacing quietly but spread rapidly through online financial circles earlier this week. Individuals connected to U.S. banking operations claimed that live internal terminals, not public websites, but internal financial systems, were displaying updated currency rates. The Iraqi dinar, listed as IQD, was reportedly shown with a value of $53 per unit, and the Vietnamese dong, or VND, was displayed around $395. For perspective, those numbers are drastically higher than the current public exchange values. Such figures, if authentic, would signal one of the most significant currency adjustments in modern history. It's understandable that this has sparked both excitement and skepticism. After all, many within the global financial community have heard rumors of similar rate changes in the past, only to see them vanish from screens just as quickly as they appeared. This time, however, observers note that the consistency across multiple banks adds weight to the discussion. To understand why these particular banks are at the center of the conversation, it's important to consider their role in U.S. financial infrastructure. Chase and Wells Fargo are two of the largest commercial banks in the country. Both are directly connected to Federal Reserve systems and U.S. Treasury channels for foreign currency settlements. When exchange rates appear on their internal terminals, it generally means that data is being pulled directly from federal or international sources. This doesn't guarantee an active revaluation, but it does suggest some form of system update or test involving verified data. In previous years, temporary rate displays were often part of back-end adjustments, testing scenarios, or technical preparation for currency recalibration. However, having two major institutions reportedly displaying the same unusual figures simultaneously raises legitimate questions. Analysts point out that simultaneous updates often indicate coordinated data synchronization rather than isolated system errors. Now let's address the figures themselves because they are, by any measure, remarkable. A value of $53 for one Iraqi dinar would make it the highest valued currency in the world, surpassing even the Kuwaiti dinar, which traditionally holds the top spot around $3.25. For the Vietnamese dong, a value of $395 per unit would be an equally dramatic leap. Both of these countries have been subjects of speculation in the foreign exchange world for years, largely due to their natural resources, developing economies, and historical ties to the U.S. financial system. It's worth noting that Iraq, in particular, possesses some of the largest oil and natural gas reserves in the world, assets that could, in theory, support a stronger national currency if monetary policy, stability, and trade conditions align. That said, moving from fractions of a cent to tens of dollars would represent a transformation on an almost unprecedented scale. Financial experts are divided in their interpretation of what's happening. Some believe these are early signs of a controlled test related to currency system modernization, essentially a simulation ensuring that exchange platforms can handle new rates if a real adjustment ever occurs. Others view the consistent numbers across institutions as evidence of an active plan moving toward implementation. From a policy standpoint, both Iraq and Vietnam have been working for years to strengthen their banking systems, reduce corruption, and integrate with global finance. Iraq has updated its central banking structure, connected to international payment systems, and restructured oil export contracts. Vietnam has made progress toward greater transparency and digital banking transformation. Both nations are positioning themselves for deeper participation in global trade, and such readiness could make them candidates for currency reform in the future. Let's look more closely at Iraq's recent financial trajectory. Over the past few years, the Central Bank of Iraq has implemented digital transaction frameworks, partnered with international institutions, and replaced several key officials to tighten oversight. They have been aligning their systems with global compliance standards and focusing on stabilizing inflation through responsible monetary controls. Iraq has also been strengthening trade relations, particularly with the United States, China, and regional partners. These steps were seen as prerequisites before any currency revaluation could be considered credible. If the current reports are tied to such developments, they may reflect back-end testing connected to Iraq's long-term modernization goals rather than an immediate currency revaluation. Nonetheless, the timing coinciding with a series of U.S. Treasury visits to Baghdad adds to the intrigue surrounding the reports. From a global perspective, it's not uncommon for banking systems to run simulation tests in preparation for potential future events. Before a major financial update, institutions frequently test their systems by entering hypothetical values to verify functionality. These simulations ensure that if policy changes occur, the infrastructure is ready to process real-time updates without error. However, in this case, observers note that the consistency across multiple banks and multiple regions appears unusual. Normally, test rates would differ from branch to branch or disappear quickly. The persistence of these figures in recent days has raised eyebrows. Some sources claim that the data remained visible for extended periods, suggesting either a live connection to a central database or a final stage readiness check. The question many are now asking is simple. Could this be the long-discussed revaluation moment often referred to as the RV? The term RV has been used for years within the currency community to describe a large-scale realignment of global exchange rates. While some treat it as speculative, others believe it represents an eventual financial correction rooted in asset-backed valuation. If such a revaluation were ever to occur, the Iraqi Dinar and Vietnamese Dong are frequently cited as potential beneficiaries due to their undervalued positions. Yet, it's essential to separate verified financial mechanisms from rumor. Historically, any true revaluation would be a coordinated global event managed through international banking and monetary systems, not an overnight surprise. Therefore, analysts caution that while the reports are intriguing, they should be observed with both optimism and prudence. For currency holders and investors, the current situation presents a classic case of cautious waiting. It's natural to feel hopeful, but financial experts consistently advise against reacting impulsively to unconfirmed data. The wisest approach is to stay informed, follow credible news channels, and avoid speculation-driven decisions. If there were to be an official currency adjustment, it would be publicly announced through verified government and banking channels. That means no one would need to rush or rely on unofficial sources. Patience and discipline remain key virtues in situations like this. Even if the screens are showing live test data, such updates indicate that global systems are evolving, a sign that broader economic modernization is underway. Let's shift our focus briefly to Vietnam. Over the past decade, the Vietnamese government has pushed for stronger financial transparency and deeper integration with global markets. The country's manufacturing growth, trade partnerships, and technological advancement have positioned it as a rising economic force in Southeast Asia. The State Bank of Vietnam has modernized its operations and strengthened its foreign reserves. While the dong's value remains modest internationally, the nation's consistent growth trajectory could, in theory, justify gradual currency strengthening over time. Seeing the Vietnamese dong appear on U.S. banking terminals with updated figures could indicate that system updates are reflecting new back-end datasets, possibly preparing for more seamless international settlement capabilities. What's especially noteworthy in this situation is the role of technology. Modern banking systems rely on complex digital infrastructure that connects local banks to international clearinghouses and central databases. When one part of that network updates, others synchronize automatically. So, a change in one country's currency database could temporarily appear across partner institutions. It's possible that what we are seeing is the result of these interconnected systems running updates or adjustments. However, when those updates involve currencies as heavily watched as the dinar and dong, even minor technical activity can spark intense speculation. This underscores how digital transparency, while valuable, can also amplify public reaction. To maintain balance, it's also worth examining why false signals sometimes occur. In global banking systems, placeholder rates are often used for testing, recalibration, or training. These placeholder rates can appear realistic but are not meant for public use. They ensure that when real data flows through, systems can handle volume, accuracy, and timing. In prior years, similar placeholders related to the Iraqi dinar appeared temporarily before being removed. While many of those instances led to confusion, they served a technical purpose. Therefore, experts emphasize that the current reports should not automatically be interpreted as proof of an active revaluation. At the same time, repeated synchronized appearances across major banks may hint that the groundwork for future activation is, at minimum, operationally in place. This brings us to the U.S. Treasury's involvement, which is central to understanding the scale of these reports. The Treasury Department manages the oversight of foreign currency exchanges conducted through U.S. banks. Any rate adjustment visible on major institutional terminals would likely originate from Treasury-connected data streams or the Federal Reserve settlement systems. Over the past several months, both Chase and Wells Fargo have upgraded their financial technology infrastructure, particularly their foreign currency management tools. Such updates could coincide with international coordination efforts involving countries like Iraq and Vietnam, especially if these nations are strengthening financial ties with the U.S. through trade or digital banking collaboration. The Iraqi economy, while historically challenged by conflict and instability, has shown measurable progress recently. Oil exports remain strong, new trade agreements have been signed, and international observers have noted improvements in fiscal governance. The country has made clear moves to attract global investment, focusing on energy, construction, and banking modernization. These steps, combined with support from international partners, may position Iraq for stronger economic performance. A currency revaluation or realignment could, in the long term, be part of a broader strategy to reflect new national strength. Whether or not that is happening now remains to be seen, but there is no denying the momentum behind Iraq's ongoing transformation. Public reaction to the latest bank screen reports has been both emotional and analytical. For some, this represents hope, the culmination of years of patience, belief, and waiting. For others, it's another reminder to stay cautious until official confirmations arrive. On social media and financial discussion platforms, commentary ranges from excitement to skepticism. Many viewers have pointed out that the emotional connection to these currencies runs deep, especially for individuals who have followed revaluation theories for decades. The best response, according to financial advisors, is a measured one: monitor the news, maintain perspective, and avoid making decisions based solely on unverified claims. If, hypothetically, the reported values were to become official, the implications would be immense. A $53 Iraqi dinar would transform the nation's global financial standing and create sudden wealth for holders of the currency. The Vietnamese dong, at $395, would likewise see unprecedented value. However, such rapid appreciation would also require massive adjustments in trade balances, foreign reserves, and international exchange mechanisms. Economists note that no country can sustain such extreme rate changes overnight without coordinated economic policy support. That's why any legitimate adjustment, if it occurs, would likely be gradual and strategically managed. These considerations remind us that behind every number on a screen lies a network of fiscal decisions, trade realities, and regulatory frameworks. In the midst of speculation, transparency remains the cornerstone of credibility. Until an official statement is issued by recognized institutions, such as the Central Bank of Iraq, the State Bank of Vietnam, or the U.S. Treasury, all information should be viewed as preliminary. Reliable financial journalism depends on verification, not viral momentum. That's why our focus tonight is to outline the facts, analyze context, and provide balanced perspective rather than make predictions. Whether these screen rates signal a live change or a technical exercise, their visibility in major U.S. banks confirms that the topic of currency reform remains active and closely monitored at high levels. Looking forward, the key indicators to watch will include statements from national banks, treasury announcements, and global exchange data feeds. Any confirmed shift would ripple quickly across forex markets, trading platforms, and financial news outlets. For now, the presence of these figures serves as a reminder of how interconnected modern economies have become. Even before official adjustments occur, system tests like these highlight the readiness of institutions to handle future financial evolution. It's a sign that global monetary systems are advancing toward more agile, responsive structures, capable of adapting swiftly to new realities. As we close tonight's report, one message stands above the rest: stay informed, not impulsive. The world of currency exchange is complex, fast-moving, and often misunderstood. When unexpected data appears, it's natural to feel anticipation, but knowledge and patience are the most valuable assets any investor or observer can hold. Whether this development proves to be a test or the beginning of a larger financial event, it reflects a world in motion, where nations continue to modernize and digital systems continue to evolve. Thank you for joining us on Iraqi Dinar News. We will continue to follow this story carefully and bring you verified updates as they emerge. If you found this report valuable, consider subscribing to stay informed as new information develops. The financial world is full of possibilities, and understanding them begins with staying calm, curious, and prepared. Until next time, this is your Iraqi Dinar News team, reminding you that informed minds make the smartest decisions.